So first, what I'm doing, I need to do this from here. So the y-axis, no, it's not the y, because y would be like that. We need x max, so something like that. Yes, the x is very important, and then the z max is even more important too. But then we start to get this stuff, and I believe here what I need is to have a lot of wave painting here on the leg, including, yeah, we need, no, oh, I remember what I've done previously. Yes, on my personal, I've got, oh, I've painted the wrong bone. Okay, let's do it again. So I've waved the leg a lot, then it starts to do it, but then I do that. Yes, well, this is really tricky, huh? Who would have thought that? It's really like corrective shape keys, right? Except that using bones. And so sometimes we have to do this to balance the ratio, but now this is horrible, and I'll of course have to deal with that. Maybe I could use the smooth, no, this, the smear tool. And so sometimes this helps, and of course now this could be smoothed. Yes, now it could be smoothed out. And yes, this would be the case that I probably would be beneficial to have another. So I need to improve the Z needs to improve a lot. That's a lot. This could also help to gain distance from, but not too much, right? But if I drop this down, I can make this. The problem is that I hope that this doesn't get issue when the leg is not on that position, when it returns. Yeah, so it caused some trouble. So maybe, or was that from, yeah, so maybe I could have something about here, right? Yes, because then this bone only starts moving when from its original position. Yeah, now this is looking good, but except for this part. So again, this is where maybe even smoothing that out, this wouldn't be enough without an extra helper bone here. This is too hard to smooth with only wave painting from the same bone. It doesn't have ratio enough. Yeah, it's hard to explain. It's too many different inputs, and then you can't just do whatever you want with the vertex. You lose control of the mass, right, of vertex. So it gets really tricky, and this is why corrective shape keys often, because it doesn't rely on wave painting, it can solve this smooth it out, right? Very, very clean, right? Even though structurally what is behind it is, what is left behind is really messed up, right? And so I'm not gonna add another bone. So you see, there are many ways to try to fix this. I think this would be adding another helper bone to smooth that out. Maybe I should have to reduce that thing. It doesn't look terrible. This is actually interesting results, except for that. Okay, so if you ignore what's happening on other parts of the mesh, If you see, this is an extra helper bone that I've made for the side, and I've put wave painting right there. And if you see that, if you remember, that was the region that was problematic for the side. And so if I placed here, if I command this bone to go here with the bone constraint, I can actually kind of fix that problem that I was having there. So in order to do that, I would have to make it somewhere like here. Yeah, something like that. And so you see, by exaggerating the location positioning of the helper bones on world space, on pose mode, we are able to compensate for the limitations of the ratios that compose the wave painting on each vertex. The normalization, right? You can compensate for that, but it's just not as precise or exact as with corrective shape keys. But at least this allows us for some degree of sculptural controlling. This is why changing the locations with bone constraints such as the transformation one is very handy. It's starting to look better thanks to this extra bone. Of course, it's a bit difficult to predict those deformations using the helper bones. This is why it's important to move the bones. And something that I didn't mention is that for those helper bones in this bone constraint, we can add or replace location mix mode, right? Mix here. And if we take replace, we just cannot move them anymore, they are constrained. Ideally, I think if the automation was very good already, we wouldn't need this so for animation. But usually if I make helper bones rig like that, is because I just don't want to be able to move them. They're not like some sort of master bone like the shoulder, I think, that you need to pose to get better expression. This is more about shapes, so I wouldn't like to have this posable. And we can change that anytime on animation, but for rigging at least, it might be useful to have this so that you can like do that and then prepare to know which is the positioning that should be good to have, right? Okay folks, so apparently these are the root positions on edit mode for all the helper bones. At least that's what it exists on my final file. And unfortunately I've kinda lost the work in progress. I cannot be sure, but I think I didn't touch the edit mode anymore later on, so it's probably something like that, right? It's very important, the root positions, because they will relate to the 0 here on the transformation bone constraints. So sorry again about that. I hope this is helping more as a conceptual understanding, because very often this is way more important, or at least as important as step-by-step tutorial, right? I've been making some adjustments even to the hips bone, the torso bone, right, that is here, and because this is very rooted, right, this bone is not moving at all, it parents everything else. But if I change the weights here, it helps, it sometimes helps to get smoother deformation in relation to the thigh bone and the helper bones. And actually this root, I call root, right, this root changes actually for that very important deforming bone actually helped in shaping this just a little better, right? And now there is barely no interpenetrations, at least to this angle. This bone could rotate even more, but now it's Ike constraint, I cannot move it. So, but I still have this concavity here, and so now the front bending is kind of working to this extent, which is a very high rotation, right, for a common rig in Blender, right? This is very hard to achieve without good setup. This also very difficult to achieve. Maybe I should really try to... Yes, I need that. That's right. in the center here it's not good to have the thigh influence. Okay, yeah, still not, this would require more investigation, but it's mostly there, it's working. And now the only thing that I would like to fix finally are the side bending, which you remember has this thing that I don't like very much, this kind of road in between the leg and the torso, and this is not feeling very natural. And so for the wave painting here, you see some light weights here. This is the top helper bones. This is just, yes, this is very important because this region was getting a lot of concavity inside, so I had to have this bone go, if you remember, it must go to the negative y of itself, right? Which is the same for the world axis. So negative y is here. Yes, it's getting minimum. Okay, so I have only those two helper bones left. It shouldn't be too hard to fix this because I have two helper bones. I have solved that the other time with just one of them. So what I'll do, maybe I'll change the waves for this one. Let's see what kind of waves this could. I'll use some very strong waves, but let's see what is the motion on that one. Okay, it goes up, so I believe if I take precisely these vertices, or more specifically, yes, now you see it's going down, right? It's the opposite what we want. But then, because those influences are stronger now, if when this bones goes up, maybe not for these ones, but especially for yes, so, and maybe here just some. So when this bone goes up, it will pull a lot those vertices, and I'll make it go up even more. And yes, maybe it should also carry some influences here, so then all the mesh here is following the same, and so it's a way to smooth out everything. So I think this needs more smoothing out. This could help too, maybe. So why not? We could try something fancier here too. Sometimes you can have interesting wave painting on different, like even wave islands, right? Let's see now. Yes, it's still complicated, but of course I haven't made one of the most important things, which is unfortunately we have to change the mode. So I have to adjust here with, so this is very high, and that's okay, and this we could make it run that way. Okay, let's see what it does now. Okay, so then it gets a bit excessive volume there, the leg on this part, and then also this gets too much volume. So maybe I can, let's do now something different. I'll take this bone and I'll try to take off influences from it, because this, yeah, you see, so it was pulling too much these vertices. So I just need, not just, but this will help solving that.